Welcome back to Mindset Master Moments, the top 1% podcast where we lean all the way into real stories, raw truth, and powerful breakthroughs. Of course, I'm your host, Dr. Alisa White, the #1 mindset disruptor, and I want you to buckle up for this conversation. It speaks to the deepest parts of us, the part that searching for peace after storms that we all go through in life. My guest today is no stranger to Mindset Mastery Moments. She is someone whose courage show up not just in her military service, which we are so proud and grateful to her for, but in her personal healing journey as well. Dr. Chrissy Emerick is a retired U.S. Army lieutenant colonel and a PhD in philosophy. I'm so proud of her. After serving in Iran and experiencing trauma firsthand, she discovered a trauma resolution method that shifted everything. And now she's using it to help others heal. This episode is about reclaiming peace, challenging what we think healing is supposed to look like. Keyword supposed to look like, and learning how to align the mind and the nervous system for lasting transformation. Dr. Chrissy, we are so happy to welcome you back to Mindset Mastery Moments. Please, for those who are hearing you on the podcast for the first time, tell us who you are, what you do, and why you do it.
Oh, thank you so much for having me back on. I'm so looking forward to this and being with you again today. Again, I am Dr. Chrissy Emerick. I have a PhD in philosophy, and it kind of bores back to my military service where I was a chemical officer for 20 years. I served in the Army for 20 years. Absolutely loved it. Went to Iraq for a year, very young, about 24, 25. And yeah, like after Iraq, came home and started to just continue to serve. And somewhere along the way, a lot of my traumas emerged from childhood, from Iraq. And I sought to get healing. And I can't wait to talk about that today. I am happily married and living in Michigan, loving my life. And after retirement, I started just supporting people on their healing journeys through different modalities. One of them that we're talking about today is mind alignment process. And one of them we talked about before is my husband and I are twin flames. We absolutely love that. And we can check out our podcast on that because we did one on there too. Very juicy. Yes. And we're just all about healing in this home and really supporting people and coming into deeper peace. And that's what I do all day. I absolutely love it. And I love supporting people in letting go of things that have been haunting them for years and bringing them into deep peace and helping them change their lives.
Yes. And you do an amazing job. Our last episode here on the podcast with you a few months ago, your tribe showed up and showed out. They're just such an amazing, positive community. So there's nothing that beats having a community village. One of the biggest passions I have as what I get to do in this world is saying, can we please rebuild the village? And you all did build a village and continue to do so. And you know what? It makes people mad sometimes, but too bad, too sad. Get in where you fit in or just keep out.
Exactly. I love that. Yes, 100%. We absolutely love what we do. My spiritual community is amazing. And we have a little MAP community too. Like in MAP, when you go through MAP, you can join a private community of only people who are moving through or have moved through MAP. And we absolutely love having that online. It's one of the little pieces you get when you join and go through MAP. And I think it's so incredibly positive to be around other people in healing and like know that you're not alone in your healing. You're not alone in your experience, that all of us are moving through something. All of us have experienced trauma and all of us have the power to let it go. I think it's a really positive and very just profound conversation we're going to have today.
I'm ready. Let's dive in, Dr. Chrissy. Right. Take us back to the moment where you were healing and in your healing journey, where it all started, not just the outer story, but the internal one. What was a moment you realized something needed to change?
Man, this is such a good question. I know exactly where I was. I was in Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. And I had just gotten done with a very large position, a very high operational position that I was in. And it was time for me to go to school and get some more training from the Army, take a step back, relax a little bit, and just have some time for me because I had been, and there's very high operational, high needed jobs in the military, and I just finished one. And so I was chilling and I started having all of these experiences. And I realized, like I had it really going on in a lot of places. I was just finished my PhD. I was rocking it at work. I was doing really well. I was on the fast track to the next position. I had a lot going on in my life. I was doing really well. Like all of these things were just, I was doing well. I was like, man, I have all of these things. I'm getting it. But this one area in my life was just a total mess. And that was my love life. It was just like every guy I dated, it just never worked. And I was like, there's something going on here I need to look at. I need to look at me because I'm the common denominator here and this needs to be addressed. All these guys are from different walks of life, or from different places in the world, different states. And like it's just not working. And so when I started really sitting with myself, I started very slow. I experienced like different, I went to the doctors. I went to the new age section in the book. I went to the military chaplains or priests that we have. I was looking at anyone that could advise me on what was going on so I could like find a solution. Yes. Like find a different way of living. And at this time, I didn't realize I had a lot of trauma. It didn't really come up yet because I hadn't relaxed enough to feel safe in order for those things to arise. And so when I did, and I started really looking at things about a year and a half later, that like I really started to relax in myself, relax into my position. I had moved on and got stationed in Italy. And when I was in Italy, just doing my job and not really, it wasn't a demanding job. It was just a staff job. And I had time to really start reflecting, really start looking at myself. And that's when my trauma hit. And I had like a trigger, a huge meltdown. And I think that was, I was having an issue with a boss. And it really like isolated me, and also I shut down. I like really knew there was something wrong going on.
Right. Wow. You shared that you were skeptical at first and that traditional therapy didn't fully reach the depth of what you thought you were carrying at the time. What made you try something different, and what did that feel like at the first time?
Yeah. So I went for traditional therapy, and in the military, there's so many of us that like, it's really somewhat of a streamlined process. You go in, like I called the 1-800 numbers. I went into like the doctor. I was self-medicating pretty heavily with alcohol at this time, probably 2 to 3 bottles of wine a night, just to like handle all of the stress and anxiety and like function. And so I knew like this wasn't heading in the right direction. I needed help. And so like I called the numbers. I told my boss I needed to go see somebody. I got all that kind of support, went into the doctors. They had me take a test, and it was online. You had to give like 3 flashbacks, and like you had to write all this stuff out. And then I felt like so open. I felt so like really like raw. And then I turned it in, and they were like, "We'll call you." And I was like, "What?" Unfortunately, I don't think this is how it works. And so they're like, "Oh, we'll give you a call." I'm like, "I need to talk to somebody. Like, what are you talking about? You're going to give me a call?" That was brutal. Like, what? Yeah. And they're like, "Yeah, well, are you?" Wow. It was wild. And they were like, well, it was Friday. And they were like, well, are you suicidal? I'm like, no, I have no intentions of harming myself. And they're like, okay, well, then we'll call you. And I was just like, I was so like struck by that. I had to like sit down in the waiting room and like just process because I couldn't. Yeah. And I was somebody who for years, almost decades at this point, had sent my soldiers to the hospital for care, like, because that's where we send them when they need something. We send them to the hospital for care. I had no idea what actually happened until it happened to me.
Right. That's funny. I love that you said that.
Yeah. Yeah. So like, I was like, wow, this is like not okay. And like, I was a high ranking individual, and I'm like, oh my goodness, how do they treat like, younger ranking or lower ranking individuals? I'm like, this is what I was very surprised. And it's not anyone else. It's not anyone's fault. I hold no resentment towards them at all. It's just the process. It's just the system. And it's known that like there's way more need than there are suppliers. And like, this is just where we are.
You're like, if you're not going to kill yourself, you can wait.
Unfortunately, that's where it's at. So it's like, okay.
Like, people here want to kill themselves, and there's like 10 of them, and there's 2 of them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's where it is. And so I was like, okay. So I went back in my car and I don't even know how I drove home in a foreign country by myself on foreign roads, but I got home. God got me. And so like I got home and I just like sat and processed it for a while. I started blogging. I was blogging a lot of things. I was blogging. And then like my spiritual leader at the time, I didn't even know he did this. He was like, hey, I can help you. Do you want me to help you? And I'm like, yeah, well, like absolutely. So Jeff, the creator of MAP, and I got on the phone, and at this point, like it didn't exist because this was the first session.
A thing, yeah.
Yeah, and we got on, and like I was still like kind of wide open, right? Because I had just done this stuff, and he sat there and like we moved through all of my experiences, all of my traumatic experiences, from like what I was going on in the office to Iraq to childhood, anything that arose, we moved through it. He invited me into letting it go, claiming peace. And then the session was done. And I was like, okay, like, he's like, no, you're good. Like, you're going to have some upheaval, but we're going to see what's going to happen. I'm like, okay. And so I just kind of felt through feelings. A lot of feelings came up the first couple weeks. And then after that, like, I started feeling better. I started having more energy. I started behaving a little differently. But listen, I did not know the profound effects of that session. I talked to you a little bit about this. This is what got us here. I talked to you a little bit about this in the last one, right? So like kind of catching everyone up. So like I didn't know the profound shift I had until I went on a wine tour. Yeah. This was it. This was like the moment I knew it was MAP and I was going to support MAP for like the rest of my life. I came home from a wine tour. I was living in Italy, you know, so I was drinking wine. So like I came home from a wine tour and I had nowhere to put my bottles because all of the wine shelves I had were full, and they were never full before because I was drinking so much. Right. So I had stopped drinking, but I hadn't stopped buying. And so like I didn't even realize I had stopped drinking wine until about a month and a half later. And I had cases of wine stacked in my hallway with nowhere to put it. I literally dropped down to my knees and started crying because I knew it was healed. I was healed in this space that was like haunting me for a really long time. And I had gone through the different modalities, tried the different stuff, but this worked. I was absolutely floored. And I just started crying. I was so grateful. And I was like, this works. This works. And I have really been sharing it ever since.
I was like, we have to talk about this again in more depth because everyone's probably thinking, well, okay, they may have heard about the process, but they did not realize how impactful it is and how transformation comes even quick.
Yeah, absolutely.
So for those who are hearing about it for the first time, what exactly is mind alignment process? And how would you describe it in plain terms to someone who might be just hesitant or someone who's just unfamiliar with trauma work? Period.
Yeah, absolutely. So first, I'm not a medical doctor, nor is anyone at MAP, nor do we purport to be. So we are layman and easy as you come. We are not doctors, right? So I love it. We are people who have had trauma, and every MAP practitioner has gone through MAP. So they have experienced trauma and moved through it with MAP. And you can look at all their stories on our website. MAP is a very simple and gentle process of letting go of traumatic memories through the flashbacks. So MAP uses the flashbacks to find out what you're holding on to and support you in releasing it so you can have all those pipes flowing again. You can process things. You can move through and live a complete and full life. And it's very easy. It's non-invasive. It's all done online. It's always been online. And so like it's an incredible process. It's about a 12 to 13 week program, 12 weeks if you want to, but a lot of people push it to 13. But you have 2 individual sessions and then 12 weeks of just group sessions in a group environment with others moving through it online. And it's just simply a process of letting go of what has been haunting you and claiming your peace there. And MAP truly believes in the power of your choice.
Right. It's not forcing you to do something that someone wants you to do.
Yes, exactly. It supports you in your power of choice to let go of that which is haunting you, which is affecting you, which is causing all the negativity in your life. And that's what we do. We support people in doing that. And it has incredible preliminary data. Our preliminary data suggests that MAP is literally the world's most effective trauma healing modality. It really does. Like, I absolutely believe in it. Since 2019, we have had over 830 people move through the program. And over 98% of the clients report a major dip in their flashbacks within the first week.
Right.
And like 98% are flashback free by the end of the program. They maintain that for 2 years. We check in 2 years after they've gone through the 12-week program, still healed at the core, still completely non-affected by their flashbacks. You still remember what happened to you.
But it doesn't have the hold and effect.
Exactly. It doesn't have the energetic charge anymore to affect your life.
That is something, like, for me, hard trauma that I went through. There was a sound associated with it.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter it didn't matter where I was. If I only heard that sound, my heart started racing, and it took me years. And because obviously I wasn't using the MAP process. Where are we now? It's almost 20 years later, and I've only been like a year and a half free of the flashback and the energetic charge that I experienced with that sound. And I don't know what I did, because I did not go to therapy for it, because it was so minor, so to speak.
This is I'm so glad you brought that up. Well, go ahead. Yeah.
But then when my body is shaking and I can't catch myself for quite a few hours and I can't think straight for something that occurred so long ago, it is not part of it. And it didn't matter that it only happened. Maybe I heard that sound once or twice a year, and that was the only time I experienced it, and I'd be shook for a few days. But then I went down a rabbit hole of thoughts and sadness, consciously and subconsciously, that was creating drama in my world. And I'm going through it alone because I'm not talking to anybody about it. I think my doorway is when I was able to see it for what it was and call it a thing, as Iyanla Vanzant would say. And when I called it a thing, then I began to work it. And I think my process was basically reminding myself, number one, that this occurred. And it was a chapter of my journey that hurt me, impacted me. However, I am safe.
Yes.
And I don't know that it might turn out that I innately created my own MAP process, but I kept reminding myself I was safe. And this was part of my journey, but it's not my current reality. And to keep releasing and telling myself, you're safe. This is not happening. It's not recurring. You're not even nowhere anyway close to it. So I had to keep bringing myself back to what my current reality is. I'll give that to you, Dr. Chrissy, and let you do what you do with it.
Yes. Congratulations for moving through it. First of all, that's a really big deal. And, this is such something that we work with, especially in we have free consults to see if MAP's a good fit for you, right? We provide that always. And something we work through a lot with people is they think what they had isn't traumatic enough to require support. Like you said, it was a minor thing. Judging your experience like that is so common, so common. Like it doesn't matter how I would move through that, or how Sally would move through that, or Dylan would move through that. If it affected you, if it caused an unsafe space within you and you can't move forward from it, you're stuck there, that's traumatic.
Yes.
That is trauma. And when you can't function or that pipe's not moving, I like to sometimes call us plumbers because it's all about what you said. It's feeling safe in that space to move through it. And MAP has created such a community of safety, such an incredible opportunity for trust. We've been working on building trust for years, right? We have on our website, we have all this preliminary data, all of these testimonials from people. We have had psychologists come through, their trauma therapy people come through and receive MAP from us. They love it. It really does work. And so I think not judging yourself first on any kind of experience that you've had that was traumatic for you is so vital. The first step, right? It's you have Iraq, when you're a combat veteran, I've been in Iraq, and I have had experiences there that were not a good time, but there's something different. We know we're moving into that. We know where we're going. You know what I mean? We know we're going into war, and
Expected.
It's not unexpected. We know this is where we're going. We're trained for it. We're ready to go. And it's still traumatic, extremely traumatic. But when you have unexpected trauma or you have traumatic experiences from people that you trusted that have like wronged or betrayed you and you're like holding on to that within you, huge. Relationship. So like parental trauma, sexual trauma, huge. It's important that you feel safe in whatever you need. If you need EMDR, if you need regular therapy, if you need equestrian therapy, whatever you need to move through that thing, give it to yourself.
Yes.
Truly, truly find your fit and give yourself the opportunity to claim your peace. MAP is what worked for me. And MAP is what has worked for anyone that's come through it and chosen peace and chosen to heal. And it's worked.
I love it. And Dr. Chrissy, one of the things I love about your work is you go back to one of my, I think favorite is an understatement, but one of my main values and priorities in my own life, and it's peace. I believe I've written a couple of articles and a social media post about that. I guess in my late 30s, what I discover, I don't know if it's something that comes with age. When we're young kids, it feels like we're seeking approval. We want our parents to be happy, our teachers to be proud, and all of that. And then we become like teenagers and we get hot in our prime and we want love and we want romance and then we want to have the kids and the home and all the things. And then we get in our relationships, we want satisfaction, whether it's sexual, it's career, all the things. And we go through that phase. And then all of a sudden, somewhere right before you turn 40, you really desire peace. You don't want to talk on the phone and it be drama. You don't want to go to work and it be drama. You will quit a job for just them telling you about your hair too much. And you can't because you got to pay the bills, but it's disturbing so much, something in you that just doesn't resonate. My philosophy for my life, and I beg to, there's some research out there that what we really seek is peace and it's wholeness. But I tell people, you're not lost, you're not broken. You just need to return to yourself, which was for me, that baby who would look in the ceiling, no one's around, and it's having a conversation and laughing and googling and cuckooing and just happy no matter what. As long as I'm fed and I got clothes on and I'm not cold or too hot, it just gets really basic. And for me, that is that word peace. And so we're seeking it throughout the journey of all the other things I described and not knowing what it is we're seeking. We can't identify it. And what we heard in your story, Dr. Chrissy, was you first identified this is not working and I want change. And then it was like, I want change. I'm trying to quit drinking on my own. I need help. I've got to get help. And so those phases, as you follow us along on this episode, I want you to hear those things. And if you didn't catch it, I wanted to make it obvious that there were these specific steps that Dr. Chrissy, even myself, who haven't gone through officially the MAP process, and all the people that have worked through this process, it was, first of all, there is an issue. I want to fix it. Can't do it by myself. I need help. And I'm not going to stop until I find it. Dr. Chrissy, is this something people will consider therapy coaching or something entirely unique?
I think it's entirely unique. I think why I say it's entirely unique is because there's a lot of our clients who still seek traditional therapy.
Right.
And MAP complements it. And that's where I see, we don't feel like in any way that MAP is butting up against traditional therapy methods. We think MAP complements traditional therapy methods.
So too.
Because it supports the person in claiming their power and moving through all of the emotions associated with it. But again, we're not doctors. And so we always advise people to seek that medical support in conjunction with MAP, which most of them have done. We have about it's close to around, I want to say around 50%, 70% of our clients have, 79% of our clients have gone through or are in other healing modalities, such as, EMDR, basic CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, something like that. So they're all seeking counselors and therapies. This is what we believe is simply a niche, fast track support for trauma, right? That's what we do. We do have a health and wellness program that's a spinoff of the MAP 12-week program, which is our flagship or primary supportive component. But it's because everyone loved being in our after MAP care, those 12-week group sessions. They loved it so much, they kept re-upping to stay in the after MAP care sessions. And so I just took them and we were like, you know what? Jeff and I were like, why don't we just put a program together and you guys can continue to receive help from MAP for complex long-term behavioral issues focused on trauma. And that's what we support there. We support people who just really like the MAP healing modality and want help with basic behavioral issues they're having in their life.
Love it. And that's how I talk about having a toolbox in your life and having different tools. You don't use a screwdriver where you need a wrench, right?
100%. Yeah.
So you have to have different tools for different things. But again, if I'm going to fix the pipes, I might need a screwdriver and a wrench.
Exactly.
100%. Again, we're going back to all this plumbing stuff.
This plumbing stuff, right? That's a good analogy. No, but we at MAP don't want codependency at all. We want to support the client in coming into peace within themselves and then send them out to live and thrive in life. That's what we're always looking to do, is provide that short-term support on whatever is really causing them havoc in their life, and so that they can go out and live and thrive.
Right. And one of the things that really stood out to me, Chrissy, is that the claim that 99% of those who complete the 12-week process report dramatic decrease in those flashbacks and emotional overwhelm. Now, that's a huge, bold, remarkable number, I have to say. What's happening in those 12 weeks that allows for that kind of breakthrough, really?
Yeah. So a lot of them actually, we have over 90% of the clients immediately experience a decrease in their flashbacks within the first 12 weeks. And over 70% experience no flashbacks within that first week. That's just in the first week. Right. And so long term, we have, when you look at it for 2 years out, it's 90%. So 90% still feel healed at the core 2 years later. So that you have the right numbers. But it's that 98%. It's huge. And it's because during that first session, you receive the healing and letting that go in the first session. And what's interesting about letting go and surrendering that experience, there is research that supports that. So, and Dr. Hawkins in Letting Go, do you know Dr. Hawkins' work? I don't know, Letting Go or Power versus Force. He's that.
Yes. Yeah. I've previewed it. I haven't gotten all the way in yet.
But yeah, some of it's really good. So in that book, Letting Go, which is really about the art of surrendering, he talks about a theory from a doctor. I have it here. It was 1981. It was research. And I would crush her name. It's not easy for me to pronounce. But anyways, I can drop it if anyone's interested in checking it out. It talks about how the research in neuroscience and psychology at the time, and that you can literally choose to let a feeling go instantly that's been haunting you for years. And the minute that you choose it, everything is released around it, because your feelings are what drive your thoughts. So when you release that feeling, the thoughts around that feeling also release out of your consciousness completely. So there's research that really grounds this theoretically in science. And that's what MAP does. When you heal the root of it, when we address the core root of what's going on, all of the strands associated with that root come out with it. Yeah. So pull it out, it all comes out. And it can be life transforming and really change your entire attitude of life the minute that root's pulled out. And sometimes we have to process that, and it takes a couple weeks. And that's why we have the 12-week program. The first couple of years when we were putting this together, we didn't have the 12-week program. We just had the first session, and we just kind of monitored them, said, okay, how are you doing? And at this time, it was all exploratory, and everyone was understanding that and all that stuff. And so we're like, okay, how do you feel? And they're like, no, I need support. I'm like, they need more support. And that's when we put the 12-week program together, and we found that balance. They're ready, they get it, they understand what to do now, they can go out and change. Because a lot of times when you pull that out, you don't even know. I didn't even know. I had choice in places. I'm like, oh, I can choose something different there.
That's really,
yeah, like, you have this thing where you're like, oh, wait, I don't have to do that if I don't want to, or I don't have to do this if I don't want to. It really you start looking at everything you're doing that was based in that trauma.
yeah.
Like now you start pulling back and saying like, I don't like this. This is not, I don't do this anymore. And that's really, it's really good, but it's also very transformative, very fast.
Mhm.
And so having help balance that and be like, well, let's not like do anything extreme. Let's take it a step at a time. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. But yeah, I think that's really important is that when you get that root out, all the strands come with it and it just creates this space for you to do whatever you want with it, right? You create that space in your mind and you can put whatever you want there. You can go into positivity. You can go build whatever you want in your life, or you can go back into the negativity and have more negative in your life if that's what you're right?
It's still the choice is still yours.
Yes.
But I think once you get a taste of that fresh air and that taste of freedom,
Exactly.
you almost never want to go back. And so, like, I thought about when I lived back home in my home country, Guyana, South America, and I had so many friends because I was a liaison for the Peace Corps. I had so many friends who came from the U.S. and they were working in the Peace Corps, and most of them did not want to come back to the USA. Not because they didn't like the USA, but the sense of, I guess they were there so long for it. They had a taste of a lifestyle that allowed them to be impactful and be free at the same time. And when I say free, it's not that we're in cages here in the US. It's just that here we're on this go, 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 go. And in a lot of other countries and cultures, you're able to make a good living, pay your bills, make impact, and have a social life. Like the thing, work-life balance is real. Like, here in the US, you really have to go the extra mile and be creative to have a life outside of what you do. And that's why I say do work that is purpose driven and purpose grounded so that you would not be working even when you're working. It won't be at 100%. It would be like you're living and you're socializing and you're laughing and playing at the same time. So like I'm a go, go, go person, but people have to understand by choice, I took massive pay cuts and I don't work in the spaces that would pay me the amounts of money so that I can have my peace, my freedom, and my impact. So I have impact, influence, and income all at the same time, which I think is one of the most powerful ways of leading a purpose grounded life because you need money to get by. People, you want to impact the life and leave a legacy regardless. And legacy is not money. It's actually that people remember what you did and how they felt because you were around them. And so that fresh air, once you get it, there's no going back, hardly ever. Sometimes you just need more work. And that's where that 1% of people that needed more tools or additional work in that first 12 weeks why it's not at 100, because some people will have to do more to get themselves there. But yeah, exactly. There's no going back. And so I personally, after this, I'm going to want to add mapping not only to my own toolbox, but the toolbox of my coaching process, working with leaders, because a lot of people look at therapy, Dr. Chrissy, as a time-consuming, money-sucking thing.
Yeah.
But you cannot put off looking at your trauma. And we all have a degree of trauma in our life. It is not an option. It's not a choice. It's not your fault. You didn't ask for it. You didn't bring it in on yourself. It occurred in the journey. Your parents are not it's not about your parents being delinquents. They were doing the best they could do with what they knew at that time. And so, yes, your younger sibling might have been coddled and protected and you were left out in the wild being the first of three. It's just part of your journey. Your responsibility and the recognition that there is something that's not right is to make a decision that you want to course correct and reclaim your power in that area and get help. You haven't gone to therapy and you don't want to go. What's stopping you from doing this process, right? What's stopping you? So I would love to introduce that as part of my work. So we'll talk about that.
Oh, yeah.
Let's deep into a little bit more into your military experience. You've been on the front lines. You've faced the silent battles that came after all of it. What do you believe is missing in how we, as a society, just sweeping generalization, of course, approach trauma recoveries, specifically for veterans and service members?
Yeah, let's talk about it. I am so passionate about this. I really am. I'm passionate about it because as a military leader, I've sent soldiers over to get support. I've had soldiers getting support, clearly not being supported. You know, I did a Medium article on this. Like, I was like, wow, what's going on? I got into it from that perspective, sat around a table full of professionals, this whole team my soldier had. And yet he was downloading on my entire staff and just really needing help. And they're like, well, he has to choose. And I'm like, just can't imagine the soldier isn't choosing it. He's going to all the meetings. He's going to the gym. He's doing all of the things you ask him to do. And like, this are not cracking the nut here. Like, what's going on? And, we figured it out. And like, he's alive today because, I flipped over some tables in my day and like got him the help he needed. And, I was like, man, I want to change this. I need to change this. Mm-hmm. And this is not just an Army problem. This is a worldwide problem, but specifically in the United States, this is a problem for all of us, right? Yeah. PTSD specifically, $232 billion budget a year. $232 billion a year goes into PTSD research and support. And 82% of that is borne by the taxpayers. And when you look at what we're losing right now, that it has 22 a year, it's gone down to 17 every day. So it used to be years ago, it's 22 a day. It's down to the most recent research is 17 veterans a day. We lose to a day.
Sorry. So what are they taking their own lives or?
They're suicide. So, and this is from veterans who have received support within 18 months prior to their death. So like that number is in with those who have actually gone to seek some type of support prior to their death. So like that's huge. That's a problem.
Yes.
We're just not getting
the needle very much.
We're not moving the needle, and like it's something that needs to be addressed. And I'm doing what I can do to address that issue in my own way. I'm very passionate about this particular thing. I think we should all be passionate about something, and this is just for me, like seeing it from a leadership perspective, moving through it personally, and then actually doing everything I can to get it into the system, like, so it can be validated, so it can be researched. This is all of our preliminary data is done by a set of PhDs that are not through the IRB process. We are working on that. Every time we go into any of the research, if it's, any of the foundations that do major research, they're like, you need more preliminary data. You need more preliminary. They just keep telling us to build more. So that's yeah, exactly. And so like, they just kind of move it along. And, we were like, okay, well, we're just going to keep providing it to those who want it, and support it through that until we can weak the code. But yeah, I think it's a huge problem. And, I've seen them, when you're going to military support, you're getting support, you kind of see everyone in and out of the office when you're there or whatever. And you'll see them all like later at the commissary because everyone is like so upset that you can't like drive. So you have to go like walk around the post for a while and just like calm down and bring yourself back into like a place to leave. So your heart's being like opened up every single time, but there's nothing moving. It is not an easy process. From that perspective, it's very slow. It's very like painful, frankly. And I don't want anyone to suffer another day with trauma when MAP is here. I don't. And so like, I think that that's very passionate about it. And I'm like, always, I talk, like anyone who knows me will tell you, you start talking to me about MAP, like you better pull up a chair.
It oozes out of you because you're passionate and present with it.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I'm always reading on new stuff, trying to figure out new ways, but I do like, it comes down to asking for help when you need it. And like, I'm not like a clinical psychologist, right? Like I need help, and so it's kind of building the networking and really like getting it out there so people know it exists. So if they're interested, they can, come and try it and get support they need. Yeah,
absolutely. So needed. Those statistics have had me. For whatever, I'm very, passionate about men and women in uniform. I always feel like they're in the front line of defense of our communities and of our villages, of our towns, of our countries.
Yeah.
So it's not that I'm not going to say that every human doesn't matter, but this extra attention because of especially those who've been in combat, man. Like, come on. That's that I have with the negligence or the sense of urgency, the lack of sense of urgency for their care entirely and their well-being after service or during service, whatever that looks like, both sides, I would say, is that we have to understand they impact a whole bunch of lives. So when you think about it, you plant one seed, it grows a tree, and you get a whole bunch of apples. Honey. So you can't look at one person and think, oh, well, it used to be 22 a day. It's only 17 now. You're talking about 17 generational lines with this unhealed trauma
a day.
And this twist in the DNA that's going to create, is only going to get amplified down the road, honey.
Exactly. 100% trauma is generational.
Yes. And it's environmental as well.
Absolutely.
Because his wife is going to suffer, work coworkers are going to suffer. So now your trauma now affecting the people around you and the processes around you, and everything is off kilter. So every human matters just as much, and priority should always be in the care of this is mind, mind. When you work on the mind, you are working on DNA like nobody's business. This is why it's a space where I hang out. You want me to talk about leadership? I'm going to come out to you from a mindset perspective. I cannot help you empower to lead your people if your thinking is off. But even more so, I will say, when you're not healed, everybody knows I talk about it. When you're not healed, your thinking is off. Your mind creates your realities, the pictures you draw from subconsciously and consciously to create your reality.